Hey everybody, it's Ryan here. It's time to recap and go over the PlayStation Experience Keynote and get my general impressions of the event. Like I mentioned on Let's Talk PlayStation, I was at work during the actual keynote, so I didn't get to see it firsthand. I'm home now. I'm catching up on everything, watching all the videos, interviews, live streams, and everything. I'm catching up on everything, but usually what I'll do is I'll watch these events, and then I'll write down every piece of news in order, so I can do a nice little recap to give you every piece of news, but I couldn't do that this time, so I'm using GameSpot, so if I forget something, blame them. But we'll do the recap, and then you'll get my impressions afterward of the keynote. I'll put a timestamp somewhere so you can just jump to my impressions if you already know everything that happened. Anyway, real quick, here's what happened at the PlayStation Experience Keynote, the first annual PlayStation Experience Keynote. When Sean Layden took the stage, he made it very obvious that this is going to be happening every year now, apparently, by saying first annual. So we'll probably see this again next year, which is awesome, because the thing about the PlayStation Experience event, this thing is completely new, right? We usually get E3, PAX, TGS, Gamescom. We get all these great gaming events. Sony basically just added a new one. And the thing that I tell people about the Experience event is, you know, this came completely out of the blue. Sony just said we're going to hold a conference and that's it. So we just got a free kind of keynote in the lineup of keynotes we usually expect as gamers who follow the industry. So even if your expectations were like low, even if you weren't that impressed by the event, it was still an event nonetheless that you really weren't even going to get to begin with. And apparently, for them to have this event, they had to warrant having that much news to announce on top of all the other events that they're going to be doing later this year and into next year. So that means they still got stuff for E3, Gamescom, TGS, all that stuff, right? On top of the Experience event. But anyway, and this is also out of order, apparently, from GameSpot. Bungie showed off exclusive PlayStation content for Destiny's first expansion. Naughty Dog, of course, opened with a first gameplay footage of Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. Looks like 15 minutes long, looking great. Persona 5 coming to PlayStation 4 in North America following its Japanese release. Sony announced Watam, which is the next game from Katamari Damacy creator Kiete Takahashi. I hope I pronounced his name right. I fucking love Katamari games, so that's awesome. I can't wait to play that. Killstrain. We a while ago we're talking about a patent that was filed by Sony for Killstrain and Bloodborne, and now we know what Killstrain is. We knew what Bloodborne is already. It's a top-down, free-to-play multiplayer game. I believe that's from Sony San Diego. First-party title there. EA is offering 3 free PlayStation games over the weekend, so you can just go to the PlayStation Store right now and download, I believe, Mirror's Edge, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare, and Need for Speed Most Wanted. Just courtesy of EA. Free games. Nothing wrong with that. The developer behind Unfinished Swan is working on a mysterious game called What Remains of Edith Finch. So they have just announced their new game. I just got a text message. Sorry about that. And I believe this is part of the 3-game deal that this developer has. Anyway, Sony revealed a top-down action roguelike called Enter the Gungeon. I was about to say dungeon, but it's Gungeon. Nice wordplay there. Both Broken Age acts are coming to PS4 and PS Vita in 2015, day and date with the PC version. Grim Fandango Remastered is coming out January 27, 2015. Sony and Double Fine are partnering to remaster Day of the Tentacle, just like with Grim Fandango. Sony announced Fat Princess Adventures, a sequel to the PS3's top-down multiplayer game. Awesome. I actually love Fat Princess. I'm excited to see that come back. A big, huge tease and ultimate troll, basically. Final Fantasy VII is going to be coming to the PlayStation 4, which is cool, but it's the PC Steam release earlier this year. It's not an actual remake or anything, but Final Fantasy VII is coming to the PS4. The Forest, which is a game that's on Steam Early Access, is coming to the PS4. That's pretty cool. I've actually seen that game. I haven't played it myself, though. It looks fun. Shovel Knight coming to PS4 in 2015, and you can play as Kratos in it from God of War. That's pretty cool. Super Time Force Ultra is coming to PS4 and PS Vita. Awesome there. Ultra Street Fighter 4 is coming to PlayStation 4, I believe exclusively, or console debut exclusively. But that goes into the obvious next news story. Street Fighter 5 exclusive to PlayStation 4 and PC that was leaked just 24 hours ago, 36 hours ago, something like that. That's where I actually posted Let's Talk PlayStation, and it got taken down. A lot of you were asking where it went. That's because Capcom took LTPS down just because I used a picture of Street Fighter 5. I didn't use any footage or anything because it was a leak, and I just added a voiceover to it because I actually had already recorded that episode. after the leak. So I had to add that story in last second, and then Capcom took it down. But yeah, Street Fighter V exclusively to PS4, and the crazy thing there is apparently this is a full-on lifetime exclusive because Sony is funding development of the game with Capcom. So it is likely not going to come to Xbox One, which is pretty crazy. Darkest Dungeon is coming to PlayStation platforms. Bastion coming to PS4 and Vita. Orcs Must Die Unchained coming to PS4 in 2015. Gang Beasts coming to PS4. The Banner Saga coming to PS Vita. Towerfall Ascension coming to PS Vita. Octodad Deadliest Catch coming to Vita. Sony is producing and publishing Resident Evil Revelations 2 for PS Vita. And Suikoden 1 and 2 are coming to PS Vita and PS3 on December 9th. I believe those PS1 classics. That should be everything that happened during the keynote at the PlayStation Experience event. So all around, like I just mentioned, it's like an extra event. So even if you weren't too impressed with like everything that was announced, you can't really complain here. There was some pretty great stuff there. Now the usual suspects, you got indies there. A lot of good indie stuff there. You know, whether you like indies or not, we know Sony's had a huge push with indies. Sony loves helping independent developers, giving them dev kits, helping them out, getting their games on their platform. It's, you know, and I think it's really cool when you're seeing stuff like early access games on Steam coming to PlayStation. Like, that's cool. That's one of the things I like about PC gaming. I'm not a huge PC gamer. I don't play PC games often, but I do love like the early access stuff. I think that's cool. While I do certainly agree that there's like debate in terms of, you know, paying for an unfinished game and stuff like that on Steam. That's like a whole other separate issue, but I do like, you know, those games, and watching them build and stuff. And I like that they're coming to consoles. I enjoy that. So like I said, the usual suspects, you got the indie stuff there. There was a lot of, you know, gameplay stuff for a lot of Sony first party stuff that we already know is coming, like The Order, Until Dawn, Bloodborne, and of course Uncharted 4. Particularly, let's talk about Uncharted 4 now. We finally got to see gameplay of Uncharted 4. I'm reading some comments and stuff online now, and it's blowing my mind that there are actually people whining and complaining that it doesn't even look that great. I mean, you know, it's obvious. It does. It looks fantastic. Without a doubt, it looks unbelievably good. But I'm the kind of person that is happy with most things. You know, you guys get a good feel for the kind of person I am and how I enjoy games and what my preferences are. I'm not snobby. I don't complain. I don't whine. I think it looks fantastic, and it does. It undeniably looks fantastic. But of course, that's me talking from a visual perspective. Gameplay-wise, it still looks very much like Uncharted. There's shooting and stuff, but there's a lot of cool, interesting things throughout that gameplay demo that we saw. So, you know, when you're climbing, it looked like that Tomb Raider thing where you could, you know, take a pick and stab into the wall and kind of grab and latch on from there. There's a lot of, like, foliage throughout the level, so Drake was easily able to hide from enemies. There was like some sort of grappling, like wire thing that he was using to, you know, traverse the area and everything. Overall, it looks awesome. Like, I'm super pumped. Like, that's my impression. That's what this is all about, impressions. I think it looks awesome. I can't wait for Uncharted 4. I think it looks awesome. There's, like, literally nothing. I have no complaints there. The interesting thing is we also saw that Drake's older brother is going to be in the game, and he's voiced by Troy Baker, because Troy Baker's in everything. But that's cool. It's given us a little bit of an insight onto the story and what we could possibly expect, and I'm definitely, like, my interest is definitely peaked there. Like, show me more of that. Still, Naughty Dog's still targeting 1080p 60 frames per second, apparently. Apparently that's really early footage. You know, the game still has a long time to go for it to actually be out, so the visuals could possibly improve. You know, I have confidence in Naughty Dog. That's what I always say to people that, you know, doubt console power, like snobby PC people. Like, you gotta, like, consoles get nowhere near as much credit as they deserve in terms of actual visual fidelity, like visual fidelity. They can produce gorgeous looking games. You know, I always tell people, like, look at the PlayStation 3 and look at God of War 3, look at Uncharted 3, Uncharted 2. You know, those games are on 7-year-old hardware. I mean, getting Grand Theft Auto 5 on PlayStation 3 was just still awesome to me. Like, granted, all these games are like 720p and 30 frames per second, but they're still visually stunning games, absolutely gorgeous. So, I mean, for me personally, I'm happy. You can't make everyone happy, and that is definitely apparent with this new gameplay that has leaked, that has been shown for Uncharted 4. Moving on to Street Fighter V. I mean, it seems pretty unfortunate that that actually got leaked. That would have been a pretty big, like, you know, mind blow during the actual keynote. but it's still like out, so we still know, and it still is mind-blowing people that Sony is funding this game. Therefore, it more than likely definitely is not going to come to Xbox One. And when I initially saw the leak, I thought to myself, and I usually always think this with big third-party exclusives, it's that, okay, it's probably a timed exclusive. That's honestly what you should default to, because that's the thing, man. Like, third-party publishers, especially a big one like Capcom, they can make a lot of money releasing it on both platforms. Same with Titanfall and EA. Like, EA is a big publisher. They can make a lot of money releasing it on both platforms. Same thing with Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix and Tomb Raider on Xbox One exclusively. Like, I always look at those things and I think it's probably timed exclusive. So that's what I thought with Street Fighter V, and come to find out, Sony is funding it, and like that's a big win for Sony. And if you remember, a few months ago there was a rumor going around that Sony was going to have a third-party exclusive that was going to piss people off. That is definitely true, because this is it, and it's understandable, because Street Fighter V is such a big IP, right? It's such a big franchise. People love it from all walks of life, and when I say all walks of life, I mean platforms, for crying out loud. Xbox owners, PlayStation owners, PC, Nintendo guys, like everyone loves Street Fighter, right? So it's understandable that people are upset that, oh, if I want to play this game, I have to get it on PC or PlayStation. But that's just that's the business, man, and that's why it is a good thing for Sony, because if you want to play this game on a console, you're gonna have to get a PlayStation 4. Just one of the many business strategies in this industry, which is, hey, we have this game, they don't, you have to buy our platform. With Street Fighter specifically, that's a huge fighting game. That's a fighting community. There's tournaments and everything. There's Evo. Like, that's a big push that Sony has now. So that was one hell of a business snag, like victory. Now, one really big piece of news actually wasn't part of the keynote. It was part of the God of War retrospective panel at PlayStation Experience. So Sony Santa Monica, Cory Barlog, which I believe is the studio's director, answered an audience questions, pretty much confirming that they are making a new God of War. And then it was also confirmed again on Twitter that they are making a new God of War. And he also mentioned that it's not a prequel. That's big news. Like, big news. A new God of War. I'm actually more shocked that they didn't want to reveal it in some way. Like, this is how we find out that a new God of War is coming. Just a straight up answer to a question. That never happens. That's why I always say, like, oh, don't trust developers when they say, no, we're not doing this, no, we're not doing that. Because they want to reveal it to you. They want to do a big megaton trailer announcement or something. So I find it quite odd that that's how we find out. Regardless, good news. New God of War game. That's awesome. That's a big AAA title. Now it's just a matter of waiting until it's actually revealed, like I just mentioned. In terms of the keynote, I think that's pretty much it. A lot of indie stuff. We saw a lot of gameplay for, a lot of Sony's first-party games like Bloodborne and Uncharted and everything. We talked about the Street Fighter thing. That's really keeping it simple. Like it was a good show. I enjoyed it. Simple as that. Like I said, the one thing I really liked about this conference is that it's just a new conference out of nowhere. It's just a new event out of nowhere. With the whole 20th anniversary PS4 thing, like you could just look at how proud Sony is of like its lineage and like its how much they're playing on the nostalgia, not to the point where they're like throwing it in your face and reselling you all their old games, but rather just making nice callbacks, and now doing this annual event for PlayStation gamers, which is like it was a public thing anyone could go to. It wasn't like a press thing. You could just see that Sony is really kind of forming new DNA. It's a much different Sony than the Sony back in 2006 that was really smug and arrogant and releasing a $600 PlayStation 3 with all this proprietary, not proprietary, but like rough, like incredibly difficult to develop system, and just expecting every developer to hop on and develop, and expecting every consumer to go buy it because they're hot shit and they're PlayStation. It's a much different attitude for Sony, despite the fact that they're also still in first place. They're staying very humble, but not just humble, aggressive too, like the whole Street Fighter thing. Like they're still staying lean, they're staying mean, competitive. Overall, I just think it's good. And the event's actually not done, so whatever else comes out, news stories, leaks, gameplay, whatever happens, we'll cover it up on Let's Talk PlayStation next Friday. Once all the dust has settled and like all the news is over and we know everything for sure that has happened. has happened. So that about does it for me. I'm Ryan Panecki. Thank you so much for talking with me, and I'll see you guys on Let's Talk PlayStation next Friday.